I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're delving into a mesmerizing tale that bridges centuries of creativity, passion, and resilience. Dr. Maya Mitra Das, an accomplished poet, author, and physician, takes us on a journey with echoes of the past, a story that connects a 15th century sculptor and a 20th century neurosurgeon through their shared pursuit of excellence. With themes of artistry, medicine, and human connection, this novel invites us to explore the magic of creativity and the legacy it leaves behind. We're delighted to have this wonderful author join us once again here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Authors Tranquility Press for helping us put her in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her remarkable book. The links are below this interview. Doctor, welcome back. Great to have you on the show once again.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time.
It's my pleasure. This is such an inspiring book. Tell us a little bit of what inspired you to write Echoes of the Past.
Actually, I just read and also went to Florence several times. And then, of course, everybody knows Michelangelo, and there's so many things have been written about him, and everybody knows. But then I just went to a Bargello Museum and I saw David. David, which is by my I should say my one of the character uh, by Donatello actually, and I was really amazed to see this David because it was David was like a boy, 14 years old, 14 to 16 year boy, whose nude figure, and was amazed that when I was looking around, you could not even distinguish that whether he or she, because it was on the from the back. And then when I turned in front, it was amazing. I was struck by the posture and his smile, his position of the head and everything. It, David was just, killed the Goliath, but he was very happy to do the job, But then I saw him just his head is little down with a little smile in his face, and he was holding the the armor away from him, and it was an amazing scene for me because I thought that the expression of the smile is very good in the sense that he is joyful because he has killed the Goliath. But then his head, I thought, head is down. So his head is down because he was thinking, I cannot do myself with this job, but it's by the grace of God I did it, and that's why he was putting his head down with a little smile, and it just made me think that what a great sculptor he was, that he could express this thing uh, through the the sculpture. And then also when I read his biography, he used to say, come alive, just because he wants to make the sculpture so alive that people who is observing the sculpture would think that he's speaking, is he speaking, or he's sad, he's smiling, everything he express. So that's what the beginning of my idea of that I wanted to do something with this sculpture. And then, of course, another character who was my dear friend, who was with me in medical school. And I didn't know when he was studying with, the same class, that he is struggling so much to be somebody, like a surgeon. He didn't even know that he will be a neurosurgeon, and he was struggling like he's struggling for 1 square meal a day when he was in school and also in the college. And we didn't know all these things when we were studying. Of course, who wants to talk about it? But then when I realized it that he did, and then he landed in England with nothing, at one little briefcase or suitcase, and nothing in the pocket. And then he had this inspiration from this book, that this sculptor who did whatever he wanted to do, his dream came true. So I could do it. But what a struggle. I mean, he didn't have anything, no, he didn't know anybody, but he became a neurosurgeon. Not only that, he was given the title of OBE and neurosurgeon of the millennium. So I just thought that these two. But when I talked to him about it, he was freaked out. I said, "What are you trying to say? That I am not. No, no, no. This sculpture legacy will be going on." But I said, "Yeah, you are also an artist, that because what he did is that he is specialized in aneurysm of the brain, and before there was some surgery, but people sometimes will be okay, sometimes will be not. Then but with his technique, just a little bit of technique, that he could do what is a marvelous thing. The people will walk from after the surgery and be normal, like a normal person. But before there's some kind of a defect, a neurological defect, or they might not live also, when they die. So what a tremendous thing he did. So I thought this is also an artist, to artist is in a different subject, different area, but he's an artist also. So, and then of course I just got the idea that, of course, I said through Donatello that he believed that the creativity is something which flows like a stream. It flows, and the stream which there's somebody possess it inside him, can do anything unique thing he wants to do. So that's the way I started the book.
Well, it's a wonderful connection. I think art and science, when practiced correctly, or art and medicine, are closely linked because it's not as simple as do A, B, and C. There's a creative process involved as well. There's a precision, particularly when dealing with organs as sensitive as the brain. So bridging these two worlds isn't really as far-fetched as it seems, right?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, clinical medicine is, of course, somebody great person said that it is a art, not a science. What we practice, actually, the clinical medicine, seeing the patient, given is a more as an art, not really as a scientific thing, no, like measure in the laboratory or coming with the calculation. We use all those things, but
Right.
it is a combination of all, which is a artistic thing, actually.
Yeah, certainly a creative process, and some people are better at it than others, no doubt. They have more aptitude. Let's talk a little bit about the parallels between Niccolo Bardi and Rudy.
Yes. What you want to
Like
know?
how are they connected, Niccolo Bardi and Rudy? How do you see their parallels? What connection do they have?
Actually, Niccolo Bardi was also he started uh, when he was 14 years old. He lost his father, and
Mm.
then he has this widow mother, and also his sister who was abandoned by her husband. So this 14-year-old boy had to, survive, not only himself but his whole family, like with mother and the sister. And he started his career. He didn't know. I mean, he was being taught. His father was very good. Her father was a woolcomber, and he just did. put him to different places to teach him whatever he wants to do. But he had the education up till 14 years old. But then he lost his father, and a whole family is on his shoulder. So, the same thing I see with Rudy, who is to sell fruits at the fruit stand to help his family because his elder brother went to school. He couldn't go to school. He used to borrow books from the friends and read and sell in the fruit stand to help his family. So it is a little bit different, but almost the same kind of idea or situation they are in. And then he got interested also with Donatello's life when he was traveling in a ship, in a merchant ship to England, and somehow he met an Italian friend who is to work in Florence in the museum gallery, and he introduced himself to Donatello. And then he started reading the book, and he thought that, oh, what, I can also work like this. I am also started my life like this. I mean, his life was interesting. One, he finished his school somehow, and then he went to college and whatever pre-medical requirement, and then he just one day came to the big city Calcutta to be with the knowledge that I want to be a doctor. So he was roaming around all day. This is really true. Everything is true story. And then he was sitting like in a little area where there was a garden and a pond and looking at the water like that. And whole day it was very hot in Calcutta. Humid, hot. There was no food, and he was looking at the water of that pond. And then a gentleman came and sat by his side and thought that he was thinking about suicide or something like that, looking at the pond like that. So he sat and he says, "What is bothering you?" So he wouldn't say, but anyway, after coaxing a little bit, he said that this is it. So he said, "Okay, I wish I could help." Then he said, "Oh, let's go." And then he took him to a place and said, "He's my friend. He's the head of this medical college. You tell me that I recommend you, and you come tomorrow and see him." So that's the the way he started. And then, of course, he was the principal of the government medical school. So he just kind of interviewed when next day, and then he said that I cannot do anything, but yeah, you can go and get admission in the private school. So that way, he got into the medical school. I mean, it's really like a storybook, but it is real fact in life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Why don't we give the folks at home an overview of the book, Echoes of the Past? Tell them what it's essentially about.
Essentially about the two characters which they live apart, centuries apart, and their time and their surrounding was different, but the way they started their life was like the same. And then also one in the 15th to 16th century sculpture at that time in Florence, and another one in Calcutta, 20th and 21st century. But they were both was struggling to be somebody which they believe, they dream that they want to be, and so they want to struggle and uh, through their life to become somebody they want to be. So the struggling part, if you see that he is a doctor and he's a sculptor, it will be so different. But you see that the flow of the life and the start and the beginning and the almost where they were. So it was like almost like the same thing. And if you forget that he was a sculptor and he is a neurosurgeon, so see them as the person who was struggling to become somebody, and they become somebody. So my idea was a book that these are this based on the true facts, that they are the real people, real facts. So I wanted to write something that the people who will read, that they will have the inspiration to become what they want to be, that don't give up and then keep on going and do whatever you wanted to do. So see these two example, that they are real example. So though they are separated by the time and the space, and also land different places, so but they did whatever they could, and they are like the one will be, the legacy will be going on. And of course Rudy's also will be pointed out for some time, so they can see that. And it's been established, and he did some also for the people where there's a neurological institute he built in Calcutta. There was none there. The way he did it, also almost by begging, going door to door to friends in Calcutta and outside Calcutta, in England, outside England, all over the globe. So almost begging, give my money. This is my idea and dream. So he did it. This is the Institute of Neuroscience in Calcutta. There was none, and it was one of the best. He got the position as one of the best, neurological institute. So
Wonderful, wonderful, and much needed, of course. And I think the book is interesting because it points out the fact that it doesn't matter where you start, it matters where you finish. The journey along the way. That if you have that tenacity, if you have that inspiration, if you have that creativity flowing like an endless river, you have the capacity to achieve wonderful things in this world, right?
yeah, thank you, thank you. Yeah, that's what my
Yeah.
essence of the book book.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. What role do you feel art plays in the healing process, physically and emotionally?
Because healing process of uh, themselves, or I mean the people who will be reading it, it's both way actually. Their healing process, they have suffered, so but when they achieved somehow there, that is kind of in healing, because they saw the results. They become um, they were like what they wanted to be. Or Niccolo, he was, the legacy would be going on, because he's the one who wanted the sculpture to stand. He's the person, that he did, without the backrest, the sculpture could stand. Before there was something at the back, the back, to make that sculpture stand. He's the first one we did it. That how, yeah. And then also this expression, the come alive. You have to come. Used to be like a mad person, come alive, come alive. So, but he did. You see his. If you are interested, you could see his. He made the sculpture of the children. They look really children, actually, not like an adult, with in a children's dress, kids dress, but they are really, really, they are the young children. You can see that face, and also their all the sculpture he did, they express so much, the expression that you can cry with them, you can laugh with them, you can have so much of feeling what he wanted to do. And here Rudy also did the same thing, because he wanted to be a doctor and surgeon, of course, surgeon, and he's also doctor anyway. So he's a surgeon, but he didn't know where to go, which part of the surgery. But it's just, somebody said that there is a, he didn't know which area of surgery. Then somebody said, "Hey, listen, you are not getting any job. There is a position in a neurosurgery. They wanted to take somebody to work, and they are not finding anybody." So he jumped that and took that opportunity. So he also did the same thing, and he did leave a mark because before there was surgery and all that, and he be been criticized by anything. They used to when he presented his work, and they used to say, "Oh, this is a black magic, black magic." Everybody would shout in the conference. People who did not believed him. So, and then he's been, in front of the whole audience. He was being, like gave him such a bad time, but still he didn't move from there. He just went on going forward, and then he did whatever he wanted to do. That the surgery in aneurysm is so successful, and it is simple. But he had this, and he described that when I saw the aneurysm and with all these blood vessels coming and things like that, I thought that is a cobra in a jungle. So from the cobra, how do I proceed? I should not proceed in front because he can bite. So I will proceed through the neck so that it will be successful. So he did it. I mean, it's all kind of procedures he did that he became successful.
Amazing, amazing. He's quite poetic himself with the metaphor of the snake and the
Yeah, the
aneurysm,
cobra.
without
Yeah.
a doubt.
Yeah, actually, cobra bites in some part of India is very, you can see. So the first thing he said is a cobra in the jungle.
It's very, very, the prospect of being bitten by a cobra is very, very frightening in every culture, I
Yeah,
think, no doubt.
yeah.
Your own life is a blend of art and science. You're a medical doctor as well. You've had quite a journey, and now you're a writer and poet as well. Tell the folks at home a little bit about your story. You emigrated to the United States, and where did you wind up? And tell us a little bit about it.
So it is interesting, actually. First of all, soon my we got married. We just went out at 12 or 13th day out of the country with two suitcases and 7 pounds each, and landed in United Kingdom. And then my husband said that he wanted to study and go through the exam of the FRCS. At that time in India, FRCS is very highly, standard from England, actually, fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons. So I said, okay. So I started working. I just went round and round to look for a job. So I got a locum job, and then there I started our life. And then he did I had my postgraduate one diploma from India, and uh, DCH means diploma in child health. But then anyway, I just could work there, and we were there for some time. Then his mother became ill, so he said, "Oh, I just wanted to go back to India." So everybody said, "No, no, no, you are just settling. Come on, now you can just go and visit and come." And, no, 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 I have to go. So anyway, we went to India, back to India, and then again we started again our travels to United States, and I came. I landed in Brooklyn, New York, in a big hospital for Kings County and Downstate Medical Center University, and there it was a 300-bedded hospital, and it was very, very busy hospital, and the county hospital was absolutely different from the uh, across the road. It was the university part of the hospital. It was absolutely different. Very everything is there, every neat and clean. Everything is working. And county hospital was just a mess, especially in the nighttime. We doctors used to carry our specimen, do everything ourselves for the patient. So that was it. And then I was encountered with the sickle cell anemia patient, and then one patient was very very much ill, and then the father of the patient and the patient's relative all came. The father threatened me with actually he wanted to see the doctor because his child was not doing well. I don't blame him, but he just came and put a knife and said, "Where is the doctor?" So I was the doctor there
Wow.
sitting on, and then in the corridor. They said, "Okay, I will call the doctor," and just that's went back and back and call the security. So these, but I don't feel bad because I know how desperate was this person, patient's father and the relatives are. They were desperate. They also came from a very not very um, area that they were being very poor actually, and they needed help, and then desperately they were behaving like that. But I learned quite a lot actually from there, in that institution, and uh, treating those patients. And also there was other problem because I used to wear my own dress sari, and then people were not very pleased with me that I'm wearing sari, and I didn't, go to the, Western dress, but because I thought it's not worth it because I'm wearing a white coat, so why it would be bothered. Anyway, and then in England, I was being so much. They used to love me in sari because they used to say that you're very graceful, and that you just glide like a swan, swan. I said, oh my God! So I will continue this. So it doesn't matter. So I was doing in United States same. So anyway, the persons, one day complained, and I went in front of the head of the department, director, and he said, do you know, doctor, why you are here?" I said, "I don't know why I'm here. I didn't see that I have done anything wrong, but you tell me." So that she said that, "Well, you know what? You refused to, wear the Western dress." I said, "Oh, that is interesting because I didn't know that I have to leave my clothes other side of the ocean to come to United States because I thought United States is a free country." So she said, "You go, you do whatever you wanted to do." And then I asked her, "See, the patient's party just leave the child here, and are we the babysitter of this particular children?" And then she said, "Yes, yes, Dr. Das, you have to be because they need that kind of help too." So those two things was very memorable. And
Yeah.
then she said that if you survive in Kings County here, you can survive anywhere in the world. So that was those two or three things I got it very inside me, and started my life in United States.
Amazing. Amazing. It's an amazing journey. And I think that doctor who said, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere was right because working in a war zone, basically, Kings County Hospital prepares you for every condition possible. And I'm sure it helped you grow as a physician and grow as a person and grow as an artist, as you are now a poet and a writer as well. The book we've been focusing on today, folks, is called Echoes of the Past. It is a story that connects a 15th century sculptor and a 20th century neurosurgeon through their shared pursuit of excellence. The book has themes of artistry, medicine, and human connection, and this novel invites us to explore the magic of creativity and the legacy it leaves behind. Doctor, thank you so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
I, I,
thank you for your time.
I
And it's
appreciate your time. It's always a pleasure talking to you and hearing your words of wisdom. And you're as eloquent a speaker as you are a writer. So thank you so
thank
much.
you. Thank you very much.
My
I
pleasure. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time. This time, until next time. on Spotlight.